I'm recording.
Great. Got it. Yeah. So just connecting the dots. I'm doing only one chapter, go with the flow, because it is so beautiful. Just chapter 4. And because I really thought the chapters are so intense. And Simran said, start from here. And that's how I prepared myself. So connecting the dots, what is Ikigai? Iki means to live. Gai means reason. Reason to live. It is a purpose. Now, so I just went ahead and picked up something a little bit more about Ikigai. Then I will move into the chapter. Ikigai is about defining your personal meaning of life. It is in relation to a talent that you have. Maybe you're passionate about something, or your profession, which actually links you to the world outside so that you can create an impact. It gives an individual a sense of purpose. So each one of us wake up, they say that every day in the morning we need to wake up with a purpose. There's something to do, some dream to chase, some life to touch, um, some aspiration to complete. And that is what gives us the meaning. So that is why Ikigai is all about. So this whole thing about finding the Ikigai. So the Japanese, they say is you find flow in everything you do. So this is flow. Now, before I get into the book, when I was reading this book, I thought like, I just want to go a little, I am always a rebel, and I go off track when I do something. So first thing I want to ask in the this thing chat box is, how many of you have actually been to Japan? Anybody? Okay, so I'll tell you, my passion for the mountains had to take me to Japan, because there is a very, very beautiful mountain up there called the Mount Fuji. Okay, right, Varsha, I hope you get there soon. And they don't call the mountain Fuji like we say Mount Everest, Mount Kailash. They call it Fuji-san. So Fuji-san, out of a lot of respect, is actually a god to them. Okay, so that is how the Japanese even treat the mountain. So you can understand that there's all flow happening all around them. And that is the land of the Zen. Okay, what was shocking, not shocking, what was very reveling about interacting with the Japanese, which made me understand this chapter and this book even more, is all their processes are seamless. Like when they say that this train is going to take off from the station at this particular minute, they even start early but never late. And you will never see a Japanese holding his bag and running to catch the train. That's what they are always in Zen. That means it is flowing. Okay. But there's a lot of undercurrent or work happening in between, but outwardly it's a flow. So the whole thing is, they are the finest in processes and mechanisms when it comes to deliver. And I want to tell you that it is very difficult to work with the Japanese. They are such perfectionists, though they are penetrating into the Indian market. I have a very good friend who's a corporate lawyer, so they find it very difficult to work with the Japanese, because they are so driven, and for them perfection is the norm. They just get perfection like your coffee or your tea. It's so simple. Okay, now before I go on and on about the Japanese, so what is flow? So in the book, this kind of experience, Bruce Lee, there's somebody. So Bruce Lee describes his famous word, the flow means you be water. Water flows. So here when we are talking about going with the flow,
मला फोन कर आणि त्या ऍपचे पण टाकून दे, म्हणजे मी डाउनलोड करून घेतो. बघता येईल मला. लॉग इन आयडी पण टाकशील.
Simran, you can mute this participant.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand what he was saying. Jagrati is absolutely fine. You can keep cooking, and probably you can flow with the cook, the cooking process. So you probably you can't attend the session, or you can't discuss, but you can keep the mic on, and obviously you can listen. So now when you're cooking, you can do some flow, okay, some tight. This is it. Here we start with the book, the first few lines. We start with this chapter: we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. Okay, it's a very deep sentence. It means you are not trying to act that you are doing excellence. Excellence just flows, it becomes seamless and effortless, and that is how greatness comes into the picture. Now, to understand this, we will understand what they mean by flow. Now, as I started reading this chapter, it said, imagine you're skiing down one of your favorite slopes. Now again, I will ask the whole group, has anybody ever done skiing? No, not even me. So I said, I'm not even going to take this reference as skiing. So I want each individual out here to pick up or imagine as I read through the chapters. I want you to imagine something that you do. So Jagruti is cooking. Okay, so Jagruti will flow through cooking. Suppose you like driving. Suppose you like painting. Suppose you like singing. I want you to pick your what to say, camp or activity that makes things flow through you. And what do they mean exactly by flow is when we have to complete a task, the ikigai flows within us because we feel immersed in it. We feel completely immersed in it and we don't even know that time flies. And the whole purpose of this chapter or this book is that in whatever you do, if you start letting this flow, so you start with one or two activities and you allow this flow of energy or flow of processes, then it becomes a habit for you. That's what Aristotle meant. Next time, whatever you do, you are going to make it a matter of habit to be immersed in it and to give your 100% in it. Okay, so here it is. Yeah, so let us visualize a stream from the glaciers. It melts and then it keeps flowing and flowing. Then it gathers more mass and it becomes a river. Then it bounces off the mountain like a waterfall. In places, it becomes a brook. In places, it becomes a stream. In places, it becomes a river. In places, it becomes a part of a dam. But the whole objective of this river is to simply meet the ocean. And no matter what happens in between, or what is the obstacle, the river finally makes it to the ocean. So that's the flow. So that is the seamlessness that you have to think of. Okay, in whatever you're doing, that is the seamlessness, that you flow like a river to meet the ocean. Now, on the contrary, the opposite can also happen. When we have to complete a task we don't want to do, every minute feels like a lifetime and we can't stop looking at our watch. Now here, no flow. Okay, so there is an obstruction, there is no flow happening. So ikigai is about going with the flow, finding your ikigai and transmitting that flow into activities that you're not interested also, because sometimes you have to do things whether you like it or don't like it. So that's the whole purpose of this book. Is it's just not making you excellent in the things that you love to do, in the things you must do. So that's why it says either you have a talent, you have a talent, you have a passion, but maybe it's your profession. And even if you're good at it, it is your job to make this process seamlessly flow and do the things like marketing, promoting, and going out there and becoming successful. Those are places like an artist will paint, but to go and sell is a lot of work. An author will write, but to go and sell the book is a lot of work. Now, those are the things where you make your ikigai flow in those processes also. That means just like you enjoy writing the book, cooking your recipe, singing a song, making a program that you can coach, it is your duty to take it to the outside world and sell yourself and work hard and promote yourself. Take the bashings of the public, get the criticism and flow through it and make sure you deliver what you have to feel fulfilled for yourself and to make an impact for the rest of the world. Okay, now my way of doing a book reading is slightly different because I can just read from the book, which you can also do. So I like to try to bring in a personal impact and a personal touch. So I'm going to be doing less of reading, more of experiences and what I have gathered from the book. Now we will move into Albert Einstein's favorite theory of relativity. Now, that is what we have one of the famous, slides, E is equal to MC square in our book coaching program as well, right? I never understood what E is equal to MC square, but Albert Einstein wrote, and figured that thing out. But he explained it in a very beautiful way. Put your hand on a stove for a minute and it seems like an hour. But sit with a pretty girl for an hour, it seems like a minute. That is theory of relativity. So that is what basically flow is all about. The energy flows, the process flows when you love it, and when you don't love it, it doesn't flow. So what you do and how you do is a relative, is the theory of relativity. Now, the next thing that Albert Einstein didn't put it, but it goes that when do we let things flow? Because we are happiest at that time doing what we are meant to do. If you're not happy, if you are not in the moment, if you are not focused, you don't find your ikigai. You don't find the flow in the ikigai at all. Now, the power of flow. Now, this is a tongue. Sorry, this is a tongue twister. Okay. Now, maybe somebody can help me. The famous psychologist who has been referring and doing a lot of work in this book. Okay, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. What shall we call her? Give me a short form, quick. Because I can't keep taking her name again and again. Okay, so we will say Mihaly. Okay, so Mihaly has done a research. Okay, and she called the state flow and described this as the pleasure, delight, creativity, and process when we are completely immersed in life. There is no magic recipe for happiness, for finding happiness, for living according to your ikigai. But one key ingredient is the ability to reach its state of flow through the state to have an optimal experience. And in order to achieve this optimal experience, we have to focus on increasing the time we spend on activities that bring us to this state of flow, rather than allowing ourselves to get caught up in activities that offer immediate pleasure. Okay, like for example, she's very clear. Flow doesn't mean sit in front of the TV and binge watch your favorite series on Netflix. Whatever you all are watching, you can always share that in the chat box if there is something you're watching, right now. That is not ikigai and that is not the flow. Okay, how do you find your flow? Is when you do activities which have a purpose. Like for example, you use your hands, you use your mind. Television watching, mindless, and the only time you use your hands is only to press the remote, so that doesn't count. The state in which the psychology of optimal experience flow is the state in which people are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. The experience itself is so enjoyable that people will do it even at a great cost for the sheer sake of doing it. Yeah, so we would have heard about people like, for example, there are you can think of something extreme that you have done. So again, I just want you to make a note of something that you have done to get out of your comfort zone, and people would have said, are you mad? Yeah, whether, I mean, it's about what to say, working out in the gym, or probably sitting for hours and creating an artwork, or coaching, or traveling to a distance to see a place of your passion. So think of another thing that has driven you to do something. So that is what they mean the flow is all about, that it's a certain kind of madness that against all odds you are going to pursue it. When we flow, we are focused on a concrete task without any distractions. So the next thing is that you are immersed in it, you are passionate about it, and you don't get any other distractions. Like you don't say, okay, now, like for example, Jagrati decides, I'm going to cook. And then suddenly she gets a call. And then she's like, ditch it. I'm going to now start talking to my friend. We will do takeaway. Okay. So that is a big distraction. And our mind is not in order. Okay. So it gets split. It moves in multiple directions, and we do not allow the flow to set in, and that's how we fail to find the ikigai within us. So here there are 7 conditions for achieving the flow. Okay, so according to the researcher Owen Schaffer of DePaul University, this is French, the requirements of achieving flow are: 1, knowing what to do; knowing how to do it, knowing how well you are doing, knowing where to go, where navigation is involved, perceiving significant challenges, perceiving significant skills, being free from distractions. I said 7 things. Now, in what way can I make you understand? Words and more words. So I'm going to share a small story. This is my personal story, and it has got to do with Japan. So I told you the reason I went to Japan was I wanted to climb Mount Fuji. Okay. So the first line, knowing what to do, climb Mount Fuji. Thing. Next, knowing how to do it. It's a trek. So that means, yes, I know how to do it. It's trekking. I don't need what to say, ropes. I don't need gears. I'm not going to hang from a mountain. It's going to be a climb. I need a basic trekking pole. I need stamina. I need training. I have basic skills. Knowing how well you are doing. So the thing is, you can complete the trek to Mount Fuji over the weekend. So you need to leave on Saturday mid-morning, and you have to be back by Sunday evening. Okay. And you have to be quick, you have to be efficient, you have to enjoy the experience. Because the Japanese have a very funny way of doing things. All of us were given partners, and I got a Japanese partner. Okay, so you have to walk 2 by 2 right next to them, and the slowest people are put in the front. The slowest people in the group are put in the front, and the rest of the people follow them because they want to keep the pace and they don't want leaving anybody behind. So trust me, knowing how well to do it, I was not ready for something like this. And so I'm the slowest in most of my trekking groups, and I had a big fight with my guide. I was panting and gasping. I don't know how well to do it. So I should have trained a little bit more harder, and I didn't know this rule about the Japs. Okay. The next thing, knowing where to go, where navigation is involved. Trust me, you can get lost, because when you go on the mountain, there's one trail here, and you feel that every trail will go up. Okay, but no, there is one safe trail which is trekkable. That means other trails, goats, mountain goats, and all that can go, but human beings have to go through one trail only. So, knowing where to go, so where your navigation is involved, perceiving significant challenges. So, in the process of what you are going to do, you should know that there are significant challenges. So, for me, challenges was the altitude, challenges was the speed, challenges was also the weather. So, you perceive all the challenge and you be ready for that kind of a challenge. So, I carried a cold jacket, a jacket to keep me warm, trekking poles, I had sunscreen, I had a cap. There can be a sunburn in spite of the fact that you're going up high up in the mountains. The sun is even more stronger. So even if you don't feel the sun, you come back very badly burned. So we know what the significant challenges are. Then perceiving significant skills. So basic skills was getting my breathing in correct, being really fit, muscle power and training, strength training, so I could climb the mountain. And then being free from distractions. So on this route to climbing Mount Fuji, the distraction part of it, I'm going to explain a little better. It's a little funny thing. Okay, so as we were climbing, I had 3 other friends from India who had come with me, and I was looking at my phone and seeing that, the danger sign. Okay, it's like giving me a warning, and everything was written in their language. It was all written in their dialect, and I was telling my friend, listen, I think our data is getting over. So we were both thinking, okay, our data is getting over. Let's save the data. Let's only take pictures. Let's not send it. When we get Wi-Fi, then we will send it. Actually, we never realized that warning was for a typhoon coming. There was a massive typhoon coming in the night. So finally, we managed to reach the peak. But from the peak, after you have peaked, you can go a little further to see the crater. So Mount Fuji is a volcanic mountain. So it's a huge crater, but it is a dormant volcano. So the lava is not flowing out. So we had to go to see this particular crater, which our guide said was not happening, and we have to come back. So 1, it rained the night before. 2, there were only gravels on the path, and people were just slipping and falling left, right, and center. So trust me, actually the biggest challenge or the most surprising thing about climbing or trekking is that it's not about climbing up. Most people think, oh, we are gasping and gasping to climb up. But climbing down is toughest because that's when you can slip. Gravity is all there and you can break your bones. I always think that this is probably the same thing about life. Success is fine. Success is fine. It takes a hard roll up there to reach the point, to be on top and find success. But after you reach that point, you have to maintain your success. Otherwise, the way you will come falling down, if you can't manage it, it ruins everything. So you see, a lot of people have been successful once, but to create the consistency and be dedicated to do what makes you successful every day, it needs you to be focused and away from all distractions. So I had to be very, very focused, not talking to my trek mates, not looking into the phone. I couldn't even look up and see the view of the mountain. I just had to steer clear of these distractions and focus on taking the next step in front of me. So I came back safely. Okay, so this is how I would explain. So this is the homework. If you can pick up something, like I said, one thing that you pick up out of your comfort zone, okay, and we will try and do it. So these are the 7 conditions for you to achieve the flow. Now, the book talks about the strategy. So strategy is very simple. Do not choose a very difficult task. Okay, I'm talking about climbing Mount Fuji, not Mount Everest. Okay, Mount Everest this lifetime is not happening. I don't get a medical clearance also from my doctor next time. So whatever you're looking at, look at something which is not that difficult, out of your comfort zone, but you don't have to really kill yourself for it. Okay, right? Now, so why should we not pick up something which is too difficult? Is because if we assign ourselves on a task that is too difficult, we won't have the skills to complete it, and will almost certainly give up and feel and to boot. That means to get out of it, and the flow will get disrupted. So it is ideal to take the middle path, neither here nor there. We want to see the challenge through the end because we enjoy the feeling of pushing ourselves. Like, for example, if Jagrati is trying a new recipe, and it's not like somewhere from the other part of the world, or something that is very difficult to do, but she has tried and she knows, and most of the stuff is available, most of the gadgets and resources are available to make that dish. So we take the middle path, neither too tough nor too easy. Now, strategy 2, you have to be very clear and concrete. That is, your objective has to be very clear and concrete. I'll give you a simple example. I want to read books. Okay, I want to read books. I will read one book every month. Every day of the month. That is how you want to work on your flow. I will read these books. So you're very specific that these are the books that you can read. These are the books you would like to read. These are the books that will get you there. Okay, where you want to go. So it flows. So every day, effortlessly, you can pick up a new book and you read, and you know which book to pick up. So it is very important that you can't be very vague with where you want to go and what should be your end results. Okay, now strategy 3. This part I laughed and laughed when I came to strategy 3. It said concentrate on a single task. In today's world, you're talking about single tasks. We are all multitasking. All of us are multitasking. Now, I'm going to ask on the chat box for people to come up with this, that how many of you enjoy multitasking? I'm not asking whether you do it or not. How many of you enjoy multitasking? Iksha, you're a superwoman. Very good. Simran Gangwani Simran, wow, superwoman. And who else? You all love multitasking, but the whole problem out here is, in this particular book, they kind of say that multitasking is so inefficient. Right now, I'm also doing Iksha. I know it is difficult. So, but in this particular book, in this particular chapter, they don't advocate multitasking at all. They don't. They only say that when you do not multitask. Like, for example, it says one of the greatest obstacles we face today with so much technology and so many distractions are we are listening to a video on YouTube while writing an email, when suddenly a chat prompt pops up and we answer it, then our smartphone vibrates in our pocket just as soon as we respond to that message. We are back at our computer logging onto the Facebook. Pretty soon, 30 minutes have passed and we've forgotten what the email we were writing was supposed to be about. So they kind of advocate no multitasking. See, but this is fine. You know what you are doing, like for example, Iksha, you're probably listening to this webinar and we are doing the recording, so probably you listen to it more intently. I cannot multitask here. Do you understand? For me, right now, I can't say I'm doing the book reading, then pick up the phone and check my mail because I just got a call and I can't take that call or check a message or check my mails. So when you are intently doing a particular aspect, so now you go back, we do multitask as women. You know, we do a lot of these mundane stuff, but when you're focusing, for example, if Simran is teaching in class, she is only focusing on teaching. If Shriveni is in a session coaching, she's only coaching. So whoever is doing that one thing, they just do exactly that for that moment, and that is what gets the maximum capacity. And that uninterrupted flow only happens when you don't distract and start doing multiple things. Okay, so again, our famous psychologist, whose name I cannot pronounce, she says, in order to focus on the task we need to be in a distraction-free environment to have control over what we are doing at every moment. Now, I'll tell you, forget multitasking, what I figured out of it. Okay, for whatever amount of work I have done in my life, for example, juggling 3 different careers, writing, being a prenatal counselor, running my own business, there are a lot of distractions I have to stay away. You know, I look at my phone and I see so many of my girlfriends catching up for random lunches, going out. They have kitty parties, or you know, they just go check out new cafes and coffees, and I just look at that phone and they say, oh Rakhi, when are you joining us? And I'm like telling them, someday. It's not that I don't get out of the house at all, but a lot of times I have to be very clear that today I'm probably talking to a client, I'm probably completing a manuscript, or I am, you know, taking an important decision. So there are a lot of distractions that I have to keep away. So I feel on the real run, instead of saying multitasking or not multitasking, it is to keep yourself in a distraction-free environment where your focus is real and fixed in life, so that it flows. So, for example, if I start writing the book and I put the book down and I say, oh, I want to do a lunch, or I want to get into a chat, or I want to get to a random call with a friend, which could be done later in the evening, my flow to write that book will be disrupted. Disrupted is the right word I will use. The flow doesn't take place, and I'm not in sync with the ikigai of my life, because my purpose as a writer is to write impactful books. It makes me feel happy, it makes my readers feel happy, and then to have the control over what we are doing at every moment. One is to keep the distraction, but you can still give in to the distraction. I can still control, you know, and say, oh, what the hell? The whole world out there is having fun and I'm sitting here and working my ass off. So shut my laptop, shut my book, get out of the meeting, miss something important to do, and go catch up with my friends on a coffee or go shopping. You know, so I need to have control of everything to live my life with consciousness. So the whole aspect of ikigai is, when you have a purpose, when you believe in something larger than life, then the smaller things which give you instant gratification is something which will fall off, and they are things that you don't give in to. So it's a lot about sacrifices and making the right choices. Yeah. So they've given some simple tips. Don't look at any kind of screen for the first hour you're awake, and the last hour before you go to sleep. Turn off your phone before you achieve flow. You know, girls, and all the readers here who have come in, I think you can just go through this chapter. Okay. And you've heard it a million number of times. So I am not going to read that and bug you again. Now, the next thing that I love about these chapters, and especially the Japs, is the words, you know, takumi. Okay, Takumi sounds so funny. So what is Takumi? Okay, so Takumi, what do Takumis do? Takumis are artisans, engineers, inventors, and otakus, fans of anime and manga have in common. I just love these words, okay? And something about the Japanese and their nice little words. So they all understand the importance of flowing with their ikigai at all times. Then they have another beautiful word. One of the first words one learns when starting Japanese lesson is ganbaru, which means to preserve, that is to stay firm by doing one's best. So as a writer, I've learned 3 new words: takumi, otakus, and Japanese lesson ganbaru. Okay, so next time, you know how I'm going to use these? When I'm going to be upset with my husband of firing my son, I will say takumi, and I will say ganbaru. They won't even know what I shot at them. Okay, so I'll tell you what takumi is. Jokes apart, takumis are very, very specific artisans who actually make parts, micro parts in the Toyota factory. That is, they make screws, bolts, and what to say, trinkets, which are very essential, which put the finest cars and machineries together with their hand. So when they do this, the takumis are working, their ikigai is at its peak, and they are in the flow without a distraction. You have very, very great people like Steve Jobs. Yeah, I think most of us know about Apple. I don't even have to talk about him. His visit to Japan, and you've had very, very brilliant people who visited Japan. They are awed when they go to these factories because the women or the artisans out there, they're not even looking up. They are so engrossed, they don't even know, oh, Steve Jobs has come, or some other great celebrity standing and looking over them, because they are engrossed in the flow to do their work. Now, there's another very, very beautiful word which I found, which is oxymoron: sophisticated simplicity. What is this? Can somebody explain on the chat box? I was like, what the hell is this? Sophisticated simplicity. So this, the Zen philosophy and the Japanese artisans have this aspect called sophisticated simplicity. So I rattled and broke my head, and I tried to find out. So there is this sushi maker, the greatest sushi maker, Jiro. Okay, so there is a documentary which has been made. He only makes sushis. Now, to get that specialized sushi, he has to make a thin batter. The batter itself is so thin, so the dough has to be very thin. And when he coaches his students in the class, they go endlessly, once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times till they get it right. That means it is sophisticated. It is a very simple thing, but the whole sophistication is about doing it again and again and again, without cribbing, without making a fuss, without giving up. They continuously keep doing it. Okay, so that is why their finest porcelain, like Steve Jobs actually took back cups and all that stuff, and a lot of the stuff was given to him and gifted to him, the best from the factories of Japan, which he had to take back. And they do it as if they are meditating. So the next thing that comes up in this book is levitating and trying to meditate, but we will get there a little later. Then I found this really nice word called the purity of Gilby. Okay, now Ghibli. Okay, so this time we have learned, what are the words we learned? We learned Takumi. Then we learned, what was the other word? Okay, I don't know where. Okay, so now this is the next word. It's called as Ghibli. So, sorry. This is me getting super excited. So we are talking about Ghibli. Now, what is Ghibli? The purity of Ghibli. These are those who say that the Shinto value of being connected to nature is vanishing. That means you vanish. So this particular line, it took me a lot to understand what do they mean. Ikigai is you vanish. What do you mean by vanish? Immerse. So when I was climbing the mountain, I looked at the mountain and I vanished in the beauty of the scene. So here, when Jagruti is cooking and she stirs the pot, or Simran is coaching, or Shriveni is coaching, or whoever is doing something, you get so immersed in the act that you just vanish in what you are doing. Okay, you don't always have to vanish out in nature. You don't always have to vanish in the scenic beauty around you. You vanish in the act of what you are doing, in the simple thing. Now, there is another very beautiful reference which is given out here is the Studio Ghibli. Now, Studio Ghibli is a studio where Miyazaki, or most of you would have heard about Japanese animation. Anybody watches Japanese animation? It's very famous. Okay, so these studios, right, so that's what they're trying to say is they immerse themselves in still using paper and pencil, and they are still not going into computer animation. Each work of art, or at the studio of Ghibli, it is made with this kind of passion and the act of vanishing, and that is why the Japanese animation is very popular and the finest of its kind. Though you have other kind of computer, what to say, aided animation. So this Miyakaze, he can't stop drawing. He does it with paper and pen still. Okay, so the day after his retirement, instead of going on vacation or staying at home, he went into Studio Ghibli and sat down to draw. His colleagues put on their best poker faces, not knowing what to say. 1 year later, he announced he wouldn't make any more feature films, but he still couldn't keep on drawing until the day he died. So what happens is you vanish in the whole act. So for example, if I am a writer, and if I have published 26 books, I may not go ahead to publish the 27th or 28th book or my 50th book as I get older, but I don't stop writing. I can still write poems. I can still write 2 lines, 2 phrases. Okay, so Ikigai is about vanishing in the act that gives you maximum passion. You live in it. So you see this Miyazaki has stopped his career. He's not doing what he does, but he has not stopped indulging in what makes him do his best in life. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? So the next thing about this thing is you vanish in what you are doing, and automatically the ikigai, you find your ikigai in every moment, irrespective of whether you're 30 or 40 or 50, you're retired, whatever. Okay, now there is another beautiful thing that they have mentioned. These are all strategies. Okay, microflow, enjoying mundane tasks. Now this is really really fun because other than writing, if you ask me to clean my cupboard, I hate it. Okay, you ask me to dust the house, I hate it. But I want to tell you this one thing, that there was once I ran some blood work, and suddenly there was a call that was coming from the lab, and they're like, whoever that physician was, he went through my blood report and he was yelling on top of his lungs saying, Rakhi Kapoor, your HSCRP is off the roof. I said, so he said, in 6 months, either you could have cancer, you could have diabetes, or you'll die of a stroke. And then while we had that particular conversation, I realized that that particular physician is a good friend and a client of mine who came with his wife for his babies to me, because I basically counsel pregnant women. So he was even more concerned. He said, no, I don't care. I want to see you very soon in my office, in my consultation room, because his HSCRP is too high. So then I told him, I am up 20 hours writing. I am not sleeping. I am having a ball of a good time. And I'm fine. But he says, no, you need to do some mundane things to rest your brain, because your cells are really inflamed. And you know what mundane tasks he gave me? Exactly what I hate. Fold clothes, put the dishes back, and do dusting. Otherwise, you will die. Now, can I say no to that stuff? So that is the whole thing, is enjoying mundane tasks. So there are times in our life we have to do certain things that we don't feel like doing, but ikigai is about finding the flow there. So to all the people in the group, next time you're doing a mundane task, I think multitasking is allowed here. So I always have music. Okay. I always have a friend sitting down. You sit while I clean the cupboard. Sit and talk to me while I clean the cupboard. But the whole point is that even you enjoy mundane tasks. Now, I'll tell you something here again. The Japanese culture and experience out here is that in Japan, if you ask anybody for a direction, like if you ask in India or any other part of the world, they will say, like this, like that, like this, like that. Okay, right? What shocked me about the Japanese was they actually took me to the next platform in the metro rail station and put me on the train. Okay, so I thought they are being very courteous. I was like, wow, what is this? They are very strange people. Japanese are very kind, but they are meant and they are wired to do such things like this. They just don't do things for the sake of doing. So it was so extreme that while I was walking on the road, I asked a particular person in the crossing that I'm looking for this particular building. I went to this town called Kyoto, and this is a new hotel. I mean, this is my next hotel, and I don't know where he is. Trust me, he didn't just stand there and say, "Oh, walk so many blocks, and then you take a left, and then you take a right." He parked his bike, missed his signal, walked 500 meters, took me right in front of the hotel and said, "Tada." He didn't say "tada," but in Japanese, he pointed out. And I said, "Arigato gozaimasu." That means he was doing a very, very mundane task. But look at the sophistication and detail, because they do not do anything for the sake of doing. And that is why that day I understood that why the Japanese find perfection to be something very normal. And trust me, we Indians do have difficulty working and catching up at that level of efficiency. They nearly work like robots. The precision is so high. And then they have the Zen. So they are continuously flowing like the Buddha. Okay. So finally, we come to this section called instant vacations, getting there through uh, meditation. Training the mind can get us to a place of flow more quickly. Meditation is one way to exercise our mental muscles. Now, I heard about biceps, triceps, quadriceps. These are all muscles. Okay, biceps, triceps in the arms, quadriceps above your knee. Now, mental muscles. I was like, okay, this is going to be a tough one. So, here the book says one of the most common mistakes among people starting to meditate is worrying about doing it right. Achieving absolute mental silence or reaching nirvana. The most important thing is to focus on the journey. Now, after reading this particular paragraph, I realized what they meant to say. Okay, it's like this: it's impossible for anyone to close their eyes and sit in meditation at the first go. It is only the Gautam Buddha, the enlightened souls who can shut their eyes and control their mind. As a human being, you can't. So that is why I will term this whole paragraph in one line: meditation in motion. So when the flow happens and you are in a state of ikigai, you are so immersed, you are so focused, you are so unaware, you are so distracted, and you don't know how time flows, and you are in the present moment only doing what you do. So you are already meditating. You don't have to be effortless, okay, in controlling your thoughts and shutting your mind. So meditation is not that difficult. And from meditation in motion, that is what we don't realize. And that is the whole philosophy of Zen. I'm telling you, when I went to that country, except for the bullet trains, when it passed from the station and zoop, it hit me and I literally got shaken up for the first time. But when I looked at the suburbs, I had this thing to go to a lot of small towns and check the countryside. There was so much of peace, and there was this form of meditativeness in the air. So I realized that these people are so quiet, mumbling to themselves, doing their work all the day and focusing on what they do. They actually are continuously meditating. And of course, yes, this is the country which has faced the worst during the World War II, where the atom bomb destroyed, and they learned this. It's come out of a lot of pain and silence. That silence has come out of lot of lot of heartache and pain and death. So here is where, when you kill your ego, when you get done with all the other mundane things, not mundane, insignificant things in your way, which take your focus away from your path, you already start living a meditative life, and you are in sync with the flow of life, and you find your ikigai. Then the next thing, that what this book tells about, because for me, I don't like rituals. I don't like rituals at all. Like, you have to do it like this, you have to do it like this, you have to do it like this, by the book. And we, as Indian culture, in the Indian culture, have a lot of rituals. We have puja, path, we have things about how we take a bath before we eat. A lot of cultures, they have to offer the food to the crow, we have to offer it to the forefathers. I never believed much in these rituals. But what ikigai is all about is finding the flow in the ritual, instead of thinking that, oh, I need to eat now, before that I have to go and offer food to the crows, to the this thing. Now, it is not before, it is a part of my eating process. That ritual is the whole process and the larger picture itself, the whole aspect of saying grace. The Christians have this thing, they sit on the table and they thank God for the meal that they have. So it is a ritual, but actually it is, that whole act is like eating food. It is a part of. So will you forget to eat food? No. So that's why when you go through rituals, it becomes a part of your process. So what happens is, working hard, getting up to chase your dreams, finding your purpose in life, living to your commitments, what you promise to yourself, becomes a ritual in your life. You live life as if the most toughest things, like discipline, dedication, focus, it flows through you as if it is a ritual. And you're in an auto mode. When you do your rituals, you're in auto mode, you're not thinking. So ikigai is about being in that automated mode of bliss throughout your life. And flow is about the steps, the processes, the things you do in between to maintain your ikigai, in the bigger things, in the smaller things in life. And as you keep doing it with the smaller things and the bigger things, it becomes a habit for you. Excellence becomes a habit for you. Life itself becomes a habit for you. Like, for example, after I shut this book and I shut the laptop and we finish the book reading, I am still supposed to be in a state of ikigai. I'm still supposed to be peaceful as I go meet my husband and we have a meal, or if I'm supposed to serve the meal for him. So, in whatever we do, ikigai means you remain blissful and in Zen. Yeah, that's it. I'm done. Any questions or anything that you would like to share? Because I can go on talking and on. I don't want to put people to sleep. And I'm sorry, Manika, I did only one chapter because this book is very intense. And it's about trying to understand, not. So I thought that just this one chapter itself, to put it out, I needed that kind of time. So anybody wants to share something about your experiences or what you felt, or would you like to add anything else to this concept? How else can we find this is the Japanese secret to a long and happy life. Now pour your secret in the chat box. Let's listen to something. Come on, people. Either you are all sleeping. I can see 3 people left. They're all sleeping. Okay. Right. Okay. Or the people who are awake. So what do you do to find your bliss? And what gives you bliss in life? What is your purpose in life?